Well, joining me now, Curtis Ellis, Senior Policy Advisor, America First Policies. And Curtis with us in Iowa for 4 days. Now he's coming to New Hampshire. We'll be on the bus Saturdays. I'll be there on Friday at the Corey Lewandowski headquarters. And then at the 6:03, then we're on the bus, the Truth Bus, following the campaigns around Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday's the primary. And Wednesday, hopefully we can talk about a result, which we can't do tonight because they don't have any. Curtis, great to have you, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here. So, yes, in New Hampshire, they actually count ballots. And they cast ballots on paper, and they count them. It's a very, it's an ancient process. It's an antique process, which we know in this brave new world of apps and caucuses, or whatever caucuses or caucusi, I don't know, and postmodernism. It's really, we've gone so far beyond counting votes. I mean, really, we don't need to count votes anymore. But they still do it the old-fashioned way up there in Dicksville Notch, New Hampshire. So we should have results probably about 12:05 a.m. on Wednesday morning, or 2 minutes after the polls close in Dicksville Notch, we'll get the results.
What was it that Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin said? It's not how many votes you have, it's who's counting the votes that matters.
That's right. It's who counts the votes that matters.
Counts the votes that matters.
I tell you, but John, what you're doing today, and what I guess I'm sort of liable for this too, because I said something about the Des Moines Register poll the other day when I was on your show. What we're doing is we are undermining faith in democracy. We are spreading conspiracy theories and undermining faith in the system by, how dare you question the Iowa Democratic Party, its inability to count votes or build an app or something. They should have used iTunes, or they should have used, I've got a lot of apps on my phone that work. They could have used.
They should have just called Andrew Yang.
That's right. They should have called Andrew Yang. He knows how this stuff works.
Andrew Yang developed apps. And like he said last night, he said, well, I don't know about the app. We looked at it, and I said, well, I got a lot of people that were shaking their head over this thing. It's like, hey, like they had 4 years. All you had to do was call up Andrew Yang and say, hey, look, take a look at this app because it doesn't work.
Well, that's what we can say about the Iowa caucuses. They don't work. Let's take a step back. An interesting fact came up as I was waiting for the results to come in last night. I discovered that Jimmy Carter is the first person that exploited the Iowa caucuses to leapfrog to the front of the pack in the 1976 primary.
That's correct.
Nobody even knew the Iowa caucuses existed, right? Everybody was busy working to win New Hampshire, and Jimmy Carter figured out, hey, I know, I'll jump in front of everybody and go to Iowa. Well, Jimmy Carter got 27% of the vote in Iowa out of the caucuses in 1976. You know who came in first?
Who?
Uncommitted. Uncommitted got 37% of the Iowa caucus goers in 1976. Jimmy Carter got 27%, and he declared himself the victor. This whole thing is a PR stunt, is my point. The whole thing is a PR stunt. It really makes sense for uncommitted to win. This is 1976, again, ancient history, before there were apps, before there were 24-hour news channels, everything else. At that point, it made sense for people a year out from the election to be uncommitted. It made sense when there's this big wide field, because we saw last night when there's all these candidates and nobody knows any of them really. It makes sense that uncommitted, none of the above, would be people's preference, and that's the way it should be, right? But now we're forced to choose. You got to choose.
So at night, by the way, we're with Curtis Ellis, Senior Policy Advisor for America First Policy. He's also does a column with me. He's also going to be with me in New Hampshire, and we just wasted 5 days of our time in Iowa. So And we made the decision to come back because I was called into a meeting with the president yesterday, which, by the way, went fantastic. Off the record, so can't go into it. But he looked great. He's fired up about tonight. But so we come back early. Imagine if we were still there. Like, what the hell would we be talking about today?
Well, actually, I would still be there because I couldn't get a flight out on Tuesday, so I would still be there.
Oh my God! You would have to stay another day to talk about nothing. What a joke!
What a joke! What a joke! Look, the other thing that's interesting, it is a joke. The whole thing's a joke. They should scrap the caucus. It makes no sense.
Yes,
why are people there standing around basketball courts in this corner or that corner? And none of them were wearing face masks, by the way, so I guess they're not afraid of coronavirus in Iowa. And they were all and then they were bullying people, right?
Yeah,
they were bullying people. If you didn't have enough to be viable, they said, come over here, join us. And the ones that they joined, what they did is Pete Buttigieg, he's a real snake. And his people, they joined the uncommitted so that Bernie Sanders couldn't say he won that precinct.
Right.
He won that caucus. They all moved. They got everybody to come into the uncommitted so they could do what they did to Jimmy Carter, right? It's like, well, we got more uncommitted than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders did not come in first here. The uncommitted came in first.
Right.
So the whole thing is a sham. The whole thing is a charade. It's a made-for-TV spectacle. And TV went along with it because they need more ratings. So we're going to pump up. Jimmy Carter jumped out as a PR stunt, a political gimmick, so he could declare himself the front runner, right?
And he did, because you're right. Going back to that 76, there was a bunch of candidates, Birch Bayh. There was a really...
John Glenn, the astronaut, the moon man, was...
There was John Glenn. There was Birch Bayh, who was a leader in the Senate. Scoop Jackson from Washington was in that. Fred Harris. My God, my memory is like a trap. Fred Harris, Democratic senator from Oklahoma.
A very liberal guy. He was Fred Harris or something else.
Mo Udall.
Right.
Don't forget him. I forget where he was from.
Arizona,
Mo Udall. So you had like major candidates, liberals in there, icons in the Senate.
And
like
then this
Scoop
peanut
Jackson.
farmer who was actually, Jimmy Carter was the conservative in the bunch.
That's right.
He was
a conservative. That's right. He was actually the blue dog Democrat.
Yep.
One-term governor, peanut farmer from Georgia. One-term governor, didn't run for a second term. One-term governor, had pretty conservative legislation.
He was the corporatist, is what he was.
Yep,
he was the corporatist, and his big accomplishment in as president was consolidation of the corporate sector. He, under the rubric of deregulation, it led to all the mergers of the airlines. It led to and it was the template for the consolidation of so much of our economy. But I don't want to get lost in that. But yeah, he was. It was a crowded field. There were a lot of people. This guy comes from nowhere. This nobody knows nothing about him. Peanut farmer. It was a political stunt. He uses the Iowa caucus to make a name for himself and jumped to the front of the pack, big momentum, and then he went on to win the nomination. And the television people go along with it.
Exactly.
Because they need ratings. So now we have another spectacle. We can get people's eyeballs glued to the screen waiting for the results of the Iowa caucus.
This has got to be the end of this caucus. I don't know how they can justify this debacle going forward. And people sitting there. I put the TV on for 4 hours yesterday, starting at 8. I finally, Curtis, went to bed at midnight. And, you didn't know. It would one thing if they said, okay, well, we're all screwed up. We're not going to get results till tomorrow. They kept saying, results are coming any minute. It'll be at top of the hour. Right. We talked to them. They're getting their act together. So first it was 9, then it was 10, then it was 11, then it was midnight. Finally, I went to bed. And what a complete joke!
But if we question it, and question what the hell is going on here, we are now guilty of undermining faith in democracy. This is a piece that came out from the Associated Press yesterday, and it was by David Klepper and Amanda Seitz. Online misinformation fuels doubt as 2020 vote kicks off. Well before Iowans cast the first ballots, an insidious campaign to seed distrust in the election process was already underway. Activists took to social media to push outright false or unproven claims. Even President Donald Trump, who questioned the primary's fairness to his tens of and then misleading social media complaints alleging a vast conspiracy were likely to intensify. So they talked about, and then here's the concern: the falsehood could so erode faith in the election that a losing candidate's supporters may refuse to accept the results. Ooh, this is what David Becker warns. It keeps him up at night. On the eve of Monday's Iowa caucus, conservative pundits used Twitter and YouTube to wrongly allege that the vote is ripe for fraud because there are more adults registered to vote. Blah, blah, blah. The claim, it goes on to say that the Des Moines Register announced that it would withhold the results of a presidential poll. And social media users quickly turned to Twitter, alleging that it was suppressed because it shows that Bernie Sanders is winning. So
that's why they canceled the Des Moines poll. I mean, you can't tell me that there was some fun. They worked on this poll for a week. This is the poll that they released, and it was supposed to be on a Saturday night with CNN, and then front page on Sunday. And every time this poll's come out, if somebody's ahead, it has helped them by 3 to 5 points every single time. So they see Sanders. You saw the poll that got leaked. Sanders was up by 4. I think Warren was second. Buttigieg was third. But the big thing in this poll is Biden was at 12%.
Yeah,
he was fourth, so, not fourth with 19%, 12%.
12%.
Right?
But here's the deal: is this article I just read you? I mean, this is a new narrative that is emerging. If you say anything that is outside of the line, you are now conspiracy theory, sowing discord and distrust of the electoral process. I'm reading this article and it's like, excuse me, this is what the Democrats have done. They have not accepted the results of the 2016 election. They're saying the Russians got Donald Trump elected. You saw Adam Schiff on the floor of the Senate saying, we have to impeach President Trump because he's going to steal the 2020 election. Talk about sowing distrust and not having confidence in the electoral system. There's crazy. Adam Schiff saying it.
Unbelievable.
And the other thing they keep harping on now, I've now read the third article on this, is polarization. The polarization of media, right? Media is responsible for the political polarization because conservatives watch Fox, Democrats watch CNN and MSNBC. They're not getting the same information. So there's this, they don't trust the other side's news channel. Republicans don't trust CNN. The people who watch CNN don't trust Fox. And so we've got now polarization of media. This is unhealthy for democracy. So what's the solution to this? Obviously, Pravda. We got to have one media outlet that tells the truth, right? I mean, that's where they're going with this. And that's part of the hate speech. Oh, you're not allowed to say that because you're sowing hate. And you're not allowed to provide online misinformation and disinformation. We're going to have approved fact checkers for everything before you can say it on TV. And John, you're going to be the first one that gets fact checked when you start saying things like the Des Moines Register poll was not released because it showed Bernie ahead. That's a conspiracy theory. You're not allowed to say that.
Well, you know what? Unless somebody could come up with a better explanation than the fact they had a font missing. And I'm telling you, the thing is, Curtis, I did a column on this, and then you and I followed up with it yesterday. I did a column on this, I think, Sunday. And I was absolutely convinced that the reason that poll was not released was because it showed Bernie ahead and Biden tanking.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Right? Absolutely. And this whole thing, what they've done here, so let's go back to the Iowa caucus results not being released. They've now taken the edge off it. Jimmy Carter used this as a political stunt to gain momentum. They've now blunted the edge of the instrument. Whatever whatever numbers are released this afternoon, people have already moved on in this 24-hour nonstop Twitter news cycle. Iowa no longer matters. We have State of the Union tonight. They're already looking at New Hampshire, so they've already killed the Iowa caucus, right?
Right. It's done.
They've already
so
buried.
The fact that Biden might have finished fifth. Think about this. He was on the verge last night of finishing behind Klobuchar, right?
Yeah.
It was Sanders and Buttigieg, Mayor Pete towards the top. It appears Sanders. They're telling me he won, but I don't know that. So you got Mayor Pete, you got Warren, and then and Sanders, and then you've got Klobuchar battling Biden for fourth place. Biden was going to finish fifth. He was going to go to New Hampshire, finishing last, basically, in Iowa. I mean, this thing is such a catastrophe. It's beyond the scope of what they're going to do in the Biden campaign. I got to tell you this though, CNN just out with a piece. Saying that the Iowa caucuses are an unmitigated disaster for the Democrats trying to beat Trump. And Trump tweets out today, these jokers can't even run a caucus in one state, and you want to put them in charge of the country.
Well, that's right. And this is just another example of how the Democrats do. There's got to be in everybody's mind. Everything is backroom, fixed, or at least there's a suspicion that that's what's going on, right? And that's the thing about backroom deals. You can never prove them. You can never, if they've got the door closed, you're never exactly sure what went on in there. You're never exactly sure if something went on in there. But that suspicion is corrosive. So you've got the whistleblower. They cooked that up in a back room. The whole Russia collusion hoax, they cooked that up. That wasn't organic. That whole thing, the FBI and the CIA and Brennan and Clapper and McCabe and Strzok and blah, blah, blah. The Democrats are just corrupt to the core. They stole the Iowa caucus from Bernie in 2016. They had the Donna Brazile give out the questions in the debate. Debbie Wasserwoman Schultz had to resign from head of the DNC. The whole system is rigged. There are so many data points, you would have to be blind, deaf, and dumb not to see the picture that has emerged of the Democratic Party. It is a totally corrupt organization, and nobody wants to admit it, because if you admit it, you're sowing distrust about the democratic system. No, we're sowing distrust about the Democratic Party because they're crooked as a dog's hind leg. And, the Republican Party ain't much better. Donald Trump started to clear it out. That's why he said drain the swamp, and everybody elected him.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating now to see the Democrats coming on TV one after the other. The matriarchs of the party, the Terry McAuliffes, who, by the way, didn't do well on CNN last night. And I told him over the air, because I know he tunes my show in, you really don't need to do that. You want to run for governor. You got a great track record. I think he embarrassed himself on CNN last night. He made no sense, and he has to sit there and defend Biden. And now you got Howard Dean on CNN trying to spin the thing. And, there's electronic problems. And, the one thing about the Democrats is we want to be sure that, that everything is exactly right. And so it might take another, couple, 6-7 hours, but let's be sure we have the results right. And there's integrity of voting. Are you kidding me? You can't even get your app to work.
They stole it from Howard Dean, right? They cranked up the mic and made him look like a crazy man, and they called him crazy, and that was the end of Howard Dean's campaign. And then we got John Kerry. Lovely. These Democrats, they remind me of the Soviet communists, the members of the Russian Communist Party, that they would abase themselves in public. They were so concerned about party discipline, and they believed so much in the party that they would say black is white, up is down, anything, whatever the party tells you to say, I'll say it, because I have no existence outside of the party. I'm willing to do anything that the party tells me to do. Stalin would put them on a show trial, accuse them of murdering their mothers, and say, yes, I did, Uncle Joe, yes, I did, I'm so sorry.